I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. I'm going to ask you a question. What entity or entities do you think I'm talking about right now? You ready? Money laundering, SEC violations, people losing their life savings, Department of Justice grand jury investigations, total incompetence, failure to register trademarks, links to the #1 adult industry bank in the Caribbean, playing the victim while it loses tons and tons of money. If you guessed a Trump-related entity, well, was a pretty easy guess to make. And so which Trump entity am I referring to? And it could be probably a variety, but I am referring to Trump Media right now, the parent company of Truth Social, the social media company that Donald Trump created based on Donald Trump's last financial disclosure that he submitted in connection with his run for the Republican nomination for the presidency. He claims the valuation of Trump Media is somewhere between $5 and $25 million, despite the fact that the thesis of the special purpose acquisition company, the investment thesis, is to merge with a company worth $400 million to $1 billion. Donald Trump just reports whatever suits him at any given time when it comes to the valuations of his things. But when it comes to Trump Media, a new blockbuster report by the Washington Post is further exposing some of the dirty dealings regarding Trump Media and the special purpose acquisition company, Digital World Acquisition Company. The title of this Washington Post article: Trust linked to porn-friendly bank could gain a stake in Trump's Truth Social. And what the article goes on to discuss is how we did another report on this before, but this is a important update to it as well, is that back in December of 2021 and February of 2022, about $8 million was injected into Trump Media as Trump Media was about to go bankrupt. Donald Trump wasn't putting any of his own money into it. And it turns out that this money came from a trust that was set up in a bank called Paxum Bank in an island called Dominica in the Caribbean. And this bank has links, direct links to Vladimir Putin. It's controlled by a family that served in top roles in the Putin administration. And then what we described in the last report as well, although we're learning more about that right now, and this is important, is that the loan was set up by someone named Patrick Orlando, who was at that time the CEO of Digital World Acquisition Company. He's since been terminated as the CEO of the SPAC. And just to remind you, special purpose acquisition companies, they're blank check companies, they're publicly traded companies. They merge with a private company and they bring the private company public. They have to follow SEC regulatory requirements to bring a private company public. So in this case, Digital World Acquisition Company, the SPAC, was going to make Trump Media a public entity as part of this merger, if they complied with all of the regulatory framework that's required by the SEC, and they didn't engage in potential criminal conduct, which they are now being investigated for. But when it comes to the SEC, what is important on all of these forms is disclosure to investors, so they are aware of the financial condition, so people aren't losing their life savings or losing lots of money when securities are being sold in public forum. So there are rules and regulations when it comes to the types of disclosures that have to be made by Digital World Acquisition Company. So what happened here was that Patrick Orlando set up this loan from this family trust that has these links to a porn-friendly bank, Paxum Bank in the Dominica, for $8 million. It looks like Patrick Orlando took a commission of $200,000 to $300,000. At least a brokerage linked to him got a finder's fee of about 3% of the overall deal. The loan to Trump Media was never disclosed at all to investors. The potential conflict of interest as well, the fact that Patrick Orlando was setting this up and was likely personally profiting. That was never disclosed to investors. The fact that this bank in the Dominica has these potential shady ties and that it could invoke anti-money laundering laws and money laundering issues, that was never disclosed to investors. And all of that is subject to the ongoing SEC and Department of Justice investigation, among other things, according to this Washington Post report. There's also investigations relating to potential insider trading. There's investigations relating to communications that may have taken place between the SPAC, Digital World Acquisition Company, and Trump Media before the announcement that the SPAC was going public in the first place, which is a violation of SEC law. You're not allowed to have these communications with potential merger partners before you announce the creation of the SPAC, because that would be the type of disclosure that investors would need to know before, in case the in order to evaluate the price of the stock. And so mostly all SPACs start off at $10 a share. But Digital World Acquisition Company, because they basically did everything you're not supposed to do when you announce a SPAC and go through a potential merger process, immediately the price of the Digital World Acquisition Company stock rose to like $175 a share right away. And you may remember on some of our early reports here on the MeidasTouch network, we were saying this kind of looks like a pump and dump scheme right here. And I wouldn't be surprised if immediately, once things are found out about this potential merger, that the price goes down significantly and people lose a lot of money. And in this Washington Post report right here, there is a section of it's called Basically My Life Savings. And it talks about just a story of one person who lost their entire life savings on Digital World Acquisition Company. It's someone named Tom Sass, the 40-year-old founder of a cloud computing startup in Chicago, who says he twice voted for Trump for president. He counts himself among the injured. In October 2021, when Digital World's merger announcement sparked a stock market frenzy, Sass bought nearly 1,200 shares at $70. Then, while listening to investing YouTubers predict that the stock could go to 300, he said he felt a deep fear of missing out, saying, "FOMO hit me hard." He entered a market order to buy thousands more shares, expecting he would get them at $90. But the stock's volatility led to a halt in trading. When the stock came back online, he said his order was unexpectedly filled at the stock's all-time high, $175 a share, draining his entire account. All in all, he spent more than $516,000 in cash on Digital World shares, according to investment accounting documentation he provided to the Washington Post. Quote, "This was basically my life savings," he said, adding that he doesn't own any property and drives a 2011 Ford Fiesta. Digital World shares now trade for about $13 a share. Reading some of these comments on Reddit about that, someone wrote, "This dude also thinks that Trump won in 2020, that he'll be reinstalled as POTUS, and that Dominion voting machines came from Venezuela. He got exactly what he deserved, except it's only going to get worse from him from here." This other person, L.A. Matt, wrote, "What they really failed to see is that almost everything about Trump business ventures is mythical. They just see his name on a bunch of shit and think that must mean he's incredibly successful, when the reality is that he's been successful previous to his political, quote, career in licensing his name. And now even the brand is worth bupkis. They never bother to actually look into the details of his many ventures, most of which involve him taking from the initial windfall of investments and then quietly slipping away before it all falls apart, leaving almost everyone else holding the bag. They just fall for the, quote, as seen on TV version of Trump, where he's the "you're fired" guy." I thought that was very well stated. And the rest of this article, when it talks about the link to this porn-friendly bank, that's Paxim Bank, which has this trust that is the one who lent the money. This bank is known for processing lots of money related to like video cam chats in the porn industry. And a lot of that money's routed through this bank that is involved in giving $8 million to Trump media in December and then February of 2021 and then February of 2022. And one of the things this article also explores, that none of that was disclosed to investors, by the way, is that loan was a convertible note, meaning that if a merger were to take place, whoever is behind this loan for $8 million can basically convert the loan into shares, and then they would get a bunch of stock at likely a significant preferable amount within Trump Media for giving the loan to Trump Media when the entities merged that regular investors weren't able to get. That's why when you're doing these things, everybody else who would follow the laws, you have to disclose that. It's not even like a close call. You file, whether it's an 8K or whatever the filing would be, in the SEC filings, you would say, here is an important event that transpired. We want to let you know. Investors, you can make up your mind about what you think, knowing that we made this, we received this loan, and then the stock can trade however the stock trades with the knowledge on the market. But you can't hide that stuff. And then what do they do at Trump Media and Truth Social and Digital World Acquisition Company? They then whine, oh, the regulators are treating us unfairly. We're the victim. Can't believe this is happening. They're delaying this. Oh, they hate Donald Trump. No. It's law and order. Stop committing crimes. Stop acting like this. Trump Media follows every aspect of a Trump, the Trump fraud playbook. Like, from the fact that there's incompetence, they didn't even register the trademark on time to Truth Social. They don't pay their bills. Prior vendors have stated they were going to sue them for not paying basic bills. They get these shady loans. They are being investigated by the SEC and the DOJ. They've got internal whistleblowers calling them out. It has all of the hallmarks of it. And, the stock continues to crash from where it was. And it's just another example of everything that Donald Trump touches, this happens to. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get audio podcast, also subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to our audio podcast. Search MeidasTouch Podcast, and please hit subscribe to this YouTube channel. Have a great day.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.